Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Kectil YouTube channel. Today, we have an inspiring conversation with Avantika, a biotechnology engineer, researcher, and climate activist. She has dedicated her work to advancing healthcare innovation and raising youth voices on global issues. And in this discussion today, we will explore how curiosity in science can grow into meaningful action, the skills young leaders need to make an impact, and other things related to this topic. And also, I want to remind you that we already have the first interview with Avantika on our YouTube channel. We talked a lot about her leadership journey, about other really great insight that I recommend you to watch. So, welcome back, Avantika, to this conversation, to our interview on the Kectil YouTube channel. And thank you very much for your time for being with us today. And
Thank you so much.
could you please remind our viewers about yourself, about your journey, and what exactly inspired you, your interest in science and biotechnology?
Hi, everybody. It's great to be back on the Kectil YouTube channel. And I'm Avantika Sanjay. I'm a recent biotechnology graduate, and I'm an aspiring physician scientist. So I think it's a very interdisciplinary field where you can contribute to science and also directly impact the lives of patients. And for me, till now, I have participated predominantly in research projects. So these involved the project that I did at Kaohsiung Medical University and even in my undergraduate years. So for me, how it started was in my school days, it was uh, purely curiosity because I remember we were studying about basic systems like respiration and our circulatory system. And I remember I would keep one hand on my chest and try to feel my cardiac cycle and imagine in my head that, okay, now the blood is flowing into my pulmonary, through my pulmonary vein into my heart. And it's going through the arteries, through the capillaries, and there is an exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. So all of these processes are very fascinating to me. And that curiosity at some point turned into, led me into biotechnology because I wanted to learn more. So over there, I was able to work as a research assistant. Over there, I think we all know cardiovascular diseases. So cardiovascular diseases is the leading cause of death globally. It accounts for at least 30% of the deaths worldwide. And what cardiovascular diseases is a broad range of conditions which predominantly affects the heart and blood vessels. And in majority of cardiovascular diseases, there is a formation of a blood clot. And an interesting thing that was found in research is that there are these microorganisms that are able to produce an enzyme that is capable of lysing these blood clots. And so in my laboratory as a research assistant, I was able to work on these microorganisms and specifically the enzymes they produced. Now, these enzymes, although research has already established that they are capable of lysing a blood clot, it's not used commercially because they're not as safe and they have some side effects. So
Let's discuss maybe about some simple things for the viewers who just thinking
mhm.
about scientists, scientific fields, or any biotechnology that they still, making decision what they want to do in their lives. So, what help you to choose this specific way of problem or something that you would like to focus doing through the scientific things, right? And what would you recommend to the people who just thinking to step into this way of career or not? So maybe there is some challenges in the scientific field that
Mhm.
that young leaders, young people should know before, starting to work in that way. So maybe you have some experience that would like to
Yeah,
share.
so my number one advice for my fellow young people who are just beginning their career would be like this is a very starting stage of our career where we can really build it to what we want it to be. So if you have a dream, I would say just go for it 100%. Like make sure you focus on your interest and invest all your time and effort into that because this is a very, I think, the initial period which can really pivot your career into where you want it to be. So instead of worrying about failure, or if especially in the field of science and research, there might be times where it is a little demeaning, or you might feel like uh, your work is not being recognized, but we are still early in our career, so I think we need to build it up slowly. And for science, especially, I think what is required is a bit of interest, intrinsic motivation that you want to uh, solve. You are excited about the day instead of thinking of it as a normal, maybe like a job that you do to pay to earn money. It's more of, I think, it requires a little bit more of uh, self-motivated interest to pursue.
I see. I see. Thanks a lot for mentioning that. And maybe you can share something that help you to stay motivated when some experiments or some research that you're doing, they don't work as planned. So have you stay motivated in this process? Because it's difficult, it's challenging to do it in the regular basis. And if you know that the results want postpone in the more future periods because it takes time.
Mhm. So a lot of times when things don't go in research, it's not black and white, meaning you cannot already predict like if an outcome comes positive, that means that my experiment was a success, because we are looking for answers. We are not sure of what will come out. So I think it's more of, for example, you might have a hypothesis and you might have a goal in mind that this is what I want to do my project in. But you might realize that the findings you're getting, the results you're getting, point towards a different direction, and it could change your hypothesis completely. So I think it's important to have an open mind. And also, at times, there will be technical issues and errors that will cause errors in your experiment. I think over there, it's best to seek guidance and look for solutions. It could be with your mentor, with your teammates, or even with introspecting into what could have been done better and what can be avoided next time.
Great, thanks a lot. And is it easy to find a mentor or some guider that will help you in the scientific growth in this career? So how the process looks like in that way?
Mhm. So most professors would prefer long-term students. So, for example, if you are ready to commit to 1 or 2 years at least in a laboratory, because you will need time to be trained in their techniques to learn what that lab is working on. So, using that, you will be able to better gain experience. At the same time, you'll understand of what where you want to go into, because again, we are fresh graduates and we have different avenues of what we think is our interest. Because, for example, for me, I realized very early that I wanted to go into translational aspect, where I wanted to contribute directly in making changes in patients' life. So that's why I found the role of a physician scientist although quite challenging, it was also quite mentally fulfilling for me. So I think it's important that you obviously, even while during your undergraduation, I think it's important you take up internships. And I think cold mailing is very important. If you find a talk, if you see a professor's talk who you found interesting, or if you like a certain research, reach out to them. Don't hesitate.
Thanks a lot for sharing that. And if we talk about creativity, because a lot of people thinking that is scientific scientists and the scientific field, they are without any creativity. There is just you work with theoretical part, you doing some experiments, and that's primarily it. So what role does creativity play in scientific research?
So I think that I'm speaking for myself over here. Creativity plays a huge role, because creativity essentially pushes you to think outside of the box, to think in new ways, and to challenge what you know to exist in your day-to-day life. So when you're a creative person, and when you are able to uh, see things from a different angle, that can shed new light even in your research findings. So I think if you have a creative mind, that is a great advantage in science, and every person in science, I think, is required to have a little bit of creativity in them to be a good researcher.
Great, thanks a lot. And how important is teamwork in biotechnology projects or any other scientific projects? So, is it more easy to work alone in the some projects research or some experiments, or it is always better to find a team and how the team is possible to find it? Could you please share your experience and share more about those parts of working as well?
Mhm. So, although the projects might be individual, it is very hard to avoid a team. In most scenarios, you will be put in a team, so you need to be prepared for that. So, it requires you to be adaptable and to be able to accommodate the other people's differences. But in most cases, at least from my experience, having a team is more comforting than a disadvantage because you have, as being a part of the same lab, you will have issues that are unique to your laboratory, or not issues, or you will have complications related to the experiment, maybe that you might want. It might be easier to discuss with a fellow lab mate than instead of a third party, maybe. So I think being in a team is not something to look at negatively at all. In fact, they can also be a support system and a place of guidance in times of need. So science is very much about teamwork, I would say.
Great, thanks a lot. And can you please share a breakthrough moment in your research career?
Mhm. So I would say a breakthrough moment in my research career would be so when I was working as a research assistant in Taiwan, we were trying to optimize our preparation method for lipid nanoparticles. And at that time, we were finding that the lipid nanoparticles were not very uniform, or and there would I was looking at research articles to see the different methods that the other researchers had used, and I saw that some researchers had different post synthesis processing methods, and others used a different method. So I just asked my professor, like, hey, there are different methods being used. Can I try these methods out? And she was a really good mentor. She always encouraged us to follow what we thought was right, and she always encouraged us to follow our own independent thought process. So because of that, I actually used a set of uh, already pre-established techniques to compare their differences, and I was able to present my findings in the international conference by the Taiwan Nanomedicine Society. So I think that's just very interesting because I did not have the intention of doing the project to publish it somewhere or present it. It was purely out of to check uh, which method would be better. But the findings showed that one particular method gave higher batch-to-batch reproducibility, indicating that it was better for lipid nanoparticle preparation. So I was able to use that for my presentation. So I think that is a breakthrough moment for me.
Thanks a lot. And how do you balance the theoretical knowledge with practical experimentation? Because sometimes I think it's quite hard to, balance those things because in scientific we have, I think it's more stereotypes that I have, like a lot of people, about theoretical part of the scientist research because most of them done in theoretical way, not in the practical experiment. So maybe something working in a completely different way. So could you please share with us more information about that?
So I think both of them are very equally important because when we are doing an experiment, the experiment is more of a mechanical part, but we need to keep in mind our aim or goal. So, for example, with lipid nanoparticles, our aim is to create precision nanomedicine, uh, nanodrug carriers that can effectively target, deliver the drug in a targeted manner. And with these thrombolytic enzymes, we are trying to create a better therapeutic agent for cardiovascular diseases. So, if you have that in mind, if we know the theory better, it will automatically put more meaning behind our work, and we will be able, because I think it's very important that we don't conduct experiments mechanically. There needs to be an intellectual to it. so that we have a better understanding of what we are doing. So there is no experimentation without theory, I would say. Both of them are equally
Thanks a
important.
lot. Thanks a lot. And I would like to discuss more also about the biotechnology part with you. And
Mhm.
maybe you can share with us what are the most exciting developments in medical biotechnology today we have in the world, and why this area is so important for young people, to develop and getting more and more people involved in that today.
Mhm. So I think biotechnology actually gained a lot of recognition because of the COVID era, because a
Mhm.
lot of people started to recognize that there is a need for research because we were struggling for vaccine production, and this was an area where a lot of healthcare professionals had to come together, researchers, doctors, nurses, all of them had to become more united because the race to get uplift to get rid of the pandemic. So I think biotechnology is a sector that is really upcoming, and we need more fields that is more interdisciplinary and collaborative because there's actually a big gap between what medical research findings are actually providing versus what is being practiced in medicine. So this gap, to fill these gaps, we need more collaborative roles, more researchers working with doctors, and roles which is more translational or follows a bench to bedside um, mentality.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And maybe you can also, you know, explain us how does genetic research help us to understand diseases that, we're trying to treat as a humans in our bodies. So is it how is exactly working? Yeah, because I'm not fully understand this process, how is those research working, and how they are getting something in results, but again, maybe you can share more details, especially with this part as well.
So for genetic experiments, I think it deals more with, so we have our DNA in us where it is converted into protein, and these proteins are required for our body for different functions. If I put it simply, so in genetic experiments, the main target is to modify a certain mutation that might be causing a disease. So, in areas like gene therapy, innovation like CRISPR and silencing RNA or RNA interference, concepts like these are gaining a lot of traction, have been gaining a lot of traction already, because um, these mechanisms can actually eradicate the root cause of the disease because there is a certain genetic code that is causing the the manifestation of the disease. So that would be the basis of, I think, genetic experiment, genetic therapy.
Thanks a lot. And also, I'm curious to ask if the biotechnology has any interconnection with climate change, and is there any impacts on climate change through biotechnology? So maybe you can share something also about those things as well.
So biotechnology, from the industrial perspective, is an industry, and we all know industries are having a huge impact, regardless of the sector, on our climate, on our environment. But I think biotechnology is one of the sectors which is also focusing on making it a bit more sustainable, making it a bit more feasible in the long term. Because even if we think of it in a selfish perspective of only gaining profits, if we only look at short-term gains, there is going to come a time where we don't have much resources, and we will also lose our profits. So it is necessary to shift to a more sustainable practice if we want to aim for longevity. So I think biotechnology is also transforming um, practices in terms of making it more sustainable. And for biotechnology is also a very interdisciplinary field. So there are uh, ways to make crops more resistant to drought and different diseases so that they can better adapt to climate change. But that is not a solution. That is temporarily avoiding the problem. So that is a big topic in conversation right now, I think.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And how do you evaluate which experiments or approaches are worth pursuing and which are less? So, how this process looks like?
I would say that depends on your interest because a lot of students are motivated by or influenced by a certain some their interest in the project. So for me, I was really interested in medical research because I really enjoy. I find it very fulfilling, and I've always had this want to give back to society or this need to, at least for my personal fulfillment, do something. So that's kind of why I entered the climate space because I wanted, when you're getting to know the issues surrounding you, I think climate change and plastic pollution is one of the major issues, especially in India. There is a lot of pollution, and we really need youth to, regardless of their professions, to talk about it because it's not being spoken of enough because there is still improper disposal of garbage and issues like that in our country in India. So that's, I think, is very important that it is spoken about more. But that aside, so I wanted to really uh, talk about issues that we were facing. But with medical research, with being a physician scientist, I think I will really be able to uh, fulfill both my passion for research and also give back to my community to really be able to create an impact in the lives of people.
Thanks a lot. And maybe you can share a project where interdisciplinary collaboration was a key and how this, you know, interdisciplinary working in, together in the same project. Maybe you had such experience.
Hmm. That is an interesting question. So, one of the experiences I had was at the Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. So that was a very interdisciplinary field because they had a research office and also a clinic. So over there, you would see patients coming in to meet doctors, and they would be going and they would be getting blood tests done, or it was a diabetes clinic, and their samples would be extracted, collected, and they would be sent to the research office where I was an intern over there. And from there, what we would do is my role was essentially to help in. So we would extract their DNA and we would amplify it using PCR techniques, which is for creating more number of copies of DNA so that we can identify if there is any mutation in their gene. Because diabetes actually is a lifestyle disorder, but it also has uh, genetic pre people can have a genetic predisposition to diabetes. So it is very important to also rule out genetic risk factors when diagnosing a person with diabetes or diabetes related complications. So this was a field where there was research and there was a medicine and there were patients involved. So I think this was a very so we would analyze the patient sample and we would send the report back to the patient, and a lot of times we would find interesting findings. We would sequence their DNA and we would read it using the machinery, and we would have it sent back to the clinic for assessment.
Great, thanks a lot. And what the biggest challenges facing young researchers today, young scientists today? So, is it possible somehow, to overcome those challenges or not?
I would say the biggest issue faced by young researchers, well, one of the issues might be opportunities because there are a lot of people interested in research, but not all of them not a lot of labs taking in temporary positions. There are permanent positions, but as a young researcher, I think people are looking to get a stronger foothold to kind of understand what what the research in a particular field entails, rather than committing themselves maybe to a PhD. So, for example, if you are maybe a freshman or like a student is still studying your undergraduate, it might be difficult to find opportunities for uh,
Thanks a lot.
a certain field that a field of your interest. But I would say contact your professors. They would have connections, and I think networking is also a big part of building those connections and gaining opportunities and experience.
That's true. Networking is always make a difference. So yeah, those who watching this video today, guys, please remember that Kectil
Yeah.
proposed like huge networking around the world with different people, with different,
Mhm.
you know, fields where they working, and that's really amazing that you can find like-minded people like you. So that's really great, and thank you very much for mentioning that, Avantika. And maybe do you have some examples how is the better way to communicate about some complex science topics to non-expert or the public? Because sometimes the public, the people, they are not
Mhm.
always understand the scientists as the way they are, deliver some point that they did research or did experiments. So people not always value what they doing for the communities.
Mhm. So I think science communication is a very important skill for any researcher, because when you are speaking to a fellow researcher, you will be familiar with their jargon and you will be able to understand it in an easier way. But to be able to, if you have a very complex hypothesis or a project that you're working on, to be able to simplify it and be able to explain it to somebody from who is not from your field, that I think in a way indicates your expertise in the field, because that is a skill. Science communication is because most often we are speaking to people who are not from our profession, our background, and we are expected to be able to, we are doing research to benefit humans, to benefit common people. So we really need to be able to communicate our findings in such a way that is more understandable, and it can be spread to more people that way. Because I think one of the ways people um, shy away from science or believe it's too difficult is because they don't understand it. But everything can be simplified. It is not difficult. I think it just requires a proper communication, a proper understanding, and it's quite an interesting field that way.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And how do you see science contributing to global health solution in next maybe 5, 10 years? So how the world can change in the future? Thankful for your work and other scientists' works as well.
So global health is definitely going to see a huge change in the next 10 years. There are more and more interdisciplinary and collaborative fields opening up. There are people who are listening more or thinking more about their lifestyle choices and making better decisions based on the current research available. So I think having access to more knowledge is always the first step of improving global healthcare, because mostly we see statistically we see that it is in areas that are below that are in poverty or that are mostly in developing countries. So over there we do not have access to proper education or knowledge. So mostly people follow practices that have been going for generations, and they do it because that is the only means they have. Think
Thanks
with
a lot.
improving our international communication, yeah, we'll see a rise in global healthcare.
Great. Thanks a lot for sharing that. And what role do ethic and responsibility play in your work as a scientist?
Mhm. So, as somebody who just graduated from biotechnology, my role, would my what I would like my role to be is somebody who can take innovation and make it something that can actually impact lives. Because a lot of the times in projects, there is, like I mentioned before, there is a gap where you are unable to really make much of a change. So what I really am passionate about is being able to look at maybe see in a clinical environment, if you see that okay, there is this issue that patients are facing, or there is a certain um, manifestation of this disease which needs to be treated in a different way. If I had knowledge of the clinical perspective and the investigative nature of a scientist, I believe that increases your productivity to be able to come up with solutions. And it is also a way to create more impact in your environment.
Great, thanks a lot. And what message would you like to share with young people who dream to contributing to science and global change?
I think the fact that you are even dreaming of contributing to science and global change is a great start, because a lot of people don't think of it that way. If you want to create change, if you already have that mentality, you can that you will make an impact. Like I mentioned, it's not important that you pick a field that you think is impactful. If you are interested in that field, I believe you will automatically make an impact if you just sincerely pursue it. So my advice to young researchers would be just follow your heart, because you will find your way. We all are still finding our way, but we will make it happen. Is what I would like to say.
Great, thanks a lot. And if you could leave our audience with one idea to stay curious and motivated, what would it be?
That's a good question. In order to stay curious, I believe it's important to keep learning, because there's constantly new findings coming out every day. There is new things that we are not aware of today that tomorrow we might know. Maybe something, a practice that we've been following all along, will turn out to be incorrect. So I think it's very important that we, in order to stay curious, we also accept that we don't have prerequisite knowledge of everything. There are so many things we don't know, and to be more open minded so that we can take up more ideas and be adaptable to change.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And maybe you have some specific thing that you also would like to share related to biotechnology, climate change with our viewers, because I think that I already asked all of the question, and I'm not the scientist, and for me it's quite hard, to understand what specifically it would be great also to mention in the discussion. So maybe you have some also idea that you would like to share with us.
I think you did a great job asking the questions. It gives, I think, especially viewers who are just out of school and looking to go into university and thinking about biotechnology, it's a great option, is what I would say. And for people who are unsure about if this is the right path, I think speaking to mentors and speaking to colleagues who have been through a similar path is one way to really get to know what a day in a life might look like as the profession you are interested in. Um, yeah, that would be my.
Great, thank you very much, Avantika. And thank you very much for being with us today, for sharing your insights and inspiring us with your journey. I already started to think maybe I should start to do some research and learn more about scientists because it seems really interesting, and I started to be curious after our discussion in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, your story showed that curiosity, creativity, and commitment can turn ideas into action that truly make a difference. We hope this conversation encourages more young leaders to explore their passion and use science to create a positive impact on the world. So thank you very much, Mantika, for being today with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy you feel that way. really nice